What's up, Raptor fans? I was just caught myself typing at the beginning of the show. It's never a good idea. I am joined by my risotto cooking friend, Kyle Brickman. What's up, Kyle?
I gotta get like some sort of new gimmick here. I'm
Yeah,
good. How are you?
you're really like bringing on the Italian chef persona. Like
I don't
it's
think
starting to
so.
really shine through.
I don't think so. I'm glad there's only. I'm glad this is the beginning of the show, not the end. That's what I'll say.
Toronto Raptors win tonight. They moved to 35-30, beating the San Antonio Spurs 119-104. And perhaps secondarily most important, they stop the best coach that the NBA has ever had from breaking the record for most wins, which is totally arbitrary and no, it doesn't really matter. But either way, Toronto took down the Spurs. It took a little while to take control of this game, but once they did, they stepped on the neck of the young Spurs and never looked back. Kyle, what were your thoughts initially about this game?
Yeah, it really was going to be a close one for a long time, which is concerning, especially coming off the three losses that the Raptors have just had. But you're right. Something in the third quarter clicked. Nurse took that timeout. I guess he must have like really got onto those, like really reamed into them in the huddle there during that timeout. But they came out of that timeout like on fire. Precious, like I guess, like didn't. I can't imagine he missed a shot like from three. Didn't feel like it in the third, fourth.
Did I just lose you? We just lost Kyle Brickman, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm back.
Oh, he's back.
No, I was just. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
No, I was just covering to you until you figured out your audio. Yeah, there was something in the third quarter that changed. I was watching the first half of this game, and you know, like I was starting to just question existentially what the hell we're doing here. Like, yeah, our offense just looked so bad and so stagnant. Like on the one hand, we have Freddie back, and Freddie looks wonderful for the most part. He like misses three, whatever, but him and Pascal just kind of um, exchanging possessions. Going back and forth. Like, okay, this is kind of like these two guys are the cornerstones of our franchise. Like this is like we haven't seen this much, and like the ceiling is like pretty high with these two. But then after that, it just everything kind of falls apart. And we like our offensive possessions turn to sludge. Everybody's standing around. It's an isolation or a pick and roll, and we're just hoping that Freddie hits like a 33-footer or Gary hits a step back fadeaway. Um, and and so it was just a really frustrating first half to watch. And then I realized, so much of the Raptors is getting that defensive stop, like getting out in transition, or at least just enabling the pace to pick up a little bit so that they can kind of find those opportunities where the defense is set. And that happened in the third quarter. They picked up their defensive intensity, which again, we talked about this last show. Like if Toronto is going to want to win games, they're going to have to be at their 100% maximum defensive intensity all game. And some teams you can be like half a game, and with San Antonio that was the case.
Yeah, and I don't want. I feel like I'm constantly pushing this narrative, but it's worth mentioning. Like Scotty got way more involved starting in the third quarter, starting with that run. He was sort of like a hub offensively, especially the latter part of the third quarter. Like he had all those possessions in the post, and even if it wasn't like a Scotty possession, it would start with like either him bringing the ball up or him getting the ball at the wing and running some sort of primary action that resulted into like a bucket from like a second side action. He was the focal point. He was the hub. Like this is sort of it's again, like I don't want to be so negative coming off of a win, but it's frustrating that it took so long to get into this when it clearly worked so well as soon as they did. And go ahead. I again, like I don't want to be overly negative, but it felt like I kind of felt at home. I was waiting for this all night.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Is just like we know what the answer is to this team, or like one of the answers, and it's this. It's just Scotty going to work at different parts of the floor, like, um, and I got called out on. I had thought Scotty doesn't really initiate much usage, and maybe Chris, you can pull up the usage of this game, but like it seems to me that Scotty's never really that like involved in the first half, and apparently over the course of the season he actually is usage wise. But you're right; it does seem in these games that like it takes so long to get him involved, and it's like, is this Scotty just not being engaged, or is this Nurse just like with an offensive system that doesn't really incorporate like Scotty's skill set? Like it's hard to kind of figure that out.
Yeah, and it did kind of get a little your turn, my turn-ish with Siakam and Van Vliet.
Hugely.
And
Gary.
And that's exactly what I was going to next. It's like, and I'm kind of fine with it when Siakam and Van Vliet were on, but like, I don't think Gary deserves turns when his production is that what it is. I think it's fine being a spot-up shooter sometimes. It's obviously not unfortunate he went on that scoring run earlier because like they needed the scoring, but it's unfortunate from the sense that like he is now demanding a certain level of shots and the production doesn't really support that.
Yeah.
And I was kind of fine. I wasn't really in panic mode up until now, but Gary over the last 10, it's not looking good. In fact, it's looking quite bad.
Yeah.
Chris, I'll get you to. Here's the usage for the game. If we can do a little zoom on the Raptors portion of that, Chris.
That's me actually.
Oh, it's you. Oh,
hence the like inability to
producer
really do this.
Chris, Howson-Jan, Howson-Jan. I do a soft J. I know it's a hard J, but I'm kind of giving it a little flair.
How's that?
But he's not really doing his job tonight, but he is with us in the booth. Yeah, so I think this is sort of what you were mentioning. That second quarter stretch there, if you guys can see at the top of the screen, I'm mousing it over on my computer. It doesn't really do anything for you. But yeah, that 4.8% usage for Scotty in the second quarter, that's abysmal. That is like actually embarrassingly bad. And I think we'll actually, this is something we should bring up with Zarar. It'd be nice to see if like the plus minus of that lineup over this stretch with Scotty's 5% usage or whatever, which we can. Be nice if they're overlaid, but they were not performing well during this same stretch. They weren't.
Yes,
they were performing quite poorly during this stretch.
With Barnes, Birch, Siakam, Trent. I mean, you got Birch and Banton just can't really coexist, right?
No.
In 2 minutes of time, they're -4. The other -5 was Boucher, Thaddeus, Barnes, Van Vliet, and Brooks. And so Scotty wasn't on the floor for that. But yeah, I mean, your point still stands.
And then let's go, if we go back to the plus minus there in the third quarter where Scotty's at like, 50% usage, they go on this huge run.
Yeah, Barnes is 8 points. They're +5. Barnes is 8 points. They go +4. Barnes is on the floor. So yeah, they're +6 with Barnes on the floor in that quarter.
Yeah, there's something about him when he gets going. He has a certain something that gives this team a lift. I think on the defensive end too. He's so excited. And that was like, if you look at the shot chart for Scotty tonight, that would be like, like the absolute dream of like someone's dad out there. Like they showed the shot chart on the broadcast, and it was like, all but one shot was from inside the paint. It just looked awesome. He had a great night. I'm so happy for him.
Yeah,
someone else who had a great night. I don't want to add him to the stream until he's ready. But Oren's waiting backstage. He's giving me the one second. If we have some Oren fans in the chat, he's coming. Let us know in the chat who your favorite is.
Fresh off the beach of Mexico.
He's presenting his own tweet.
Yeah, I mean, who do we want to talk about next? You don't want to be negative, so do we want to stay away from Birch, or do we want to talk about Birch?
I think it's worth mentioning. He was really bad tonight. Like he was awful tonight. I don't know if it's necessarily fair to him because he's being asked like a little too much, especially when Precious is like obviously he doesn't deserve minutes over Precious when Precious is shooting like 60% from three. It's so hard these days when Precious is playing so well. I still think there's a place for him on this team. Like people are comparing him to Aaron Baines, which is like that hurts massively. That hurts my soul. I think Birch is way better than Aaron Baines. But yeah, rough night. Or what was your impression of Kem Birch tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same impression that I've gotten since the All-Star break and probably even before that. Like, I just don't see it. I don't see the vision. I really don't see the vision with Birch. Like theoretically, he makes sense with the starters, right? Because he's like a low usage player, good screener. Doesn't really take offense away from those guys. But with OG out and Fred out for so long, I did not understand with how badly he's playing. And now my thing is, I know Adon, you brought this up, like, okay, if Nurse doesn't want to play Precious with the starters for whatever reason, whether it's because Precious isn't like takes possessions away, or if the reason is because he likes Boucher and Precious off the bench together, fine. Play Thad with the starters. Like that's a better look to me than Birch is with how badly Birch has been.
And you saw it a little bit too towards the end. Like I think I was saying last show, like the only justification right now to have Birch on the floor is when there is more of a traditional big. So you have Pirtle, who's basically that, and it makes sense. Pirtle like got big. I don't know, like he looks larger just in frame, and
he was passing into the short roll too. I was like, where was that? Where was that when you were with the Raptors? I don't remember that. I thought you were just a dunker.
So I think Birch makes sense to like defensively with someone like Pirtle, but then you look at Thad with this old man strength, and you're like, oh, never mind. Like Thad can do basically the same thing, and when our offense is so one dimensional, like just operating in these like pick and rolls with like guys on flat on the perimeter, you can't have someone like Birch who just kind of throws the ball away or shot puts it from 6 feet. Like you need somebody who can be more dynamic. And they've been resolving that by having Siakam screen or Barnes. But if you're going to have the big, it should be a playmaker like Thaddeus.
To your point, yeah, like even from the very start of the game, he wasn't doing the big man things that you thought he would do. Like Pirtle was out rebounding him from the start of the game, and Birch was blowing like lobs from the start of the game. So even those big man things that he should be better against those guys than like Precious or Thad, he hasn't been. I actually think Precious has been stronger in the post and a better rebounder than Birch over this last like 10 game stretch. And then Thad, yeah, he's probably not as good as either of those guys at that kind of stuff, but we've seen the amalgamation of, three forwards like Siakam, Thad, and Barnes do that together better than Birch trying to do it one-on-one and just failing against Pirtle time and time again. Like he's been like, I think that they're trying to play Birch into a rhythm here. And like, I just don't see why Birch has kind of earned the leverage to have that freedom to play himself into a rhythm.
Well, I mean, I think the only counterpoint would be that last year we saw what kind of like offensive plus minus he was for this team. Like he
can be good. Yeah.
Yeah. He did like bring this team together, and there is evidence that he can do that. It's just, he hasn't had, the poor guy now like loses a front tooth. Like he's just had some really bad luck this year. And he hasn't had a stretch where he can just get into some kind of a rhythm. It's just been really up and down for him. So yeah. I will cut him some credit there, but I mean, and you would think like with Nurse, he is such a short leash with some dudes,
right?
And it's like with Birch, he's given him quite a long rope to do, and it hasn't really got anywhere. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him down the stretch and perhaps into the playoffs.
It is worth noting he did only play 17 minutes tonight. Like I think a lot of people
that's because he broke his tooth.
Like a full 38, and he's
sure.
He's like like 7th on the team in minutes, 8th on the team in minutes. So it's like he's your 8th man. It's rough. It looks really bad, but he's your 8th man on a night like tonight. So it's like I don't know if he's the villain everyone seems to think he is.
No, he's not. But
Tonight, I think, was more of a case of like Precious came in when Birch went to the locker room and started playing really, really well, so you couldn't take him off the floor. But yeah, like it's true, he's not playing crazy amount of minutes, but I would like Thad and Precious to both up the minutes a little bit.
On that note, Oren, choose a guy you want to talk about.
A guy. Well, sorry, but I missed the start of the show. So did you talk about Scotty?
You can't talk Scotty. You're not allowed to talk
Scotty.
We talked about Scotty's like contrast between the first quarter and the second half, right. which thematically over the course of the season hasn't really changed that much, but it certainly feels like it. He's like a bellwether. He's his own bellwether almost. Like he's like sometimes he's just so disengaged, and then suddenly he's doing this. And Kyle and I are asking ourselves, like, what does it take for him to always be doing this? Is this on him or is this on Nurse?
Yeah. Okay, before we go, let's talk Precious then. Even though
you don't want to talk Scotty. I was leading you into Scotty.
Oh no, I let you guys do it. Me and Kyle had this discussion last episode about the Scotty usage stuff. So my cat is in my face. No, yeah, I think Precious is worth talking about because like it's not to me just that Birch has been underwhelming and kind of just hasn't found the rhythm. It's more so that I think Precious is deserving of more minutes because of the way he's developed this season. And it's like if I want to ride with one guy to like really find like their best selves by the time the playoffs come and it's either Birch or Precious, I want it to be Precious because 100%. I think his upside is just like ridiculous, especially when he's hitting. Like I just had this thought at the end of this game, like if Precious keeps improving the 3-point shot, can he play the 4? Because if Precious can play the floor, that the defense on your team is ridiculous all of a sudden. And I'm not saying like he'll always be able to, but there's certain situations where I could see him playing the 4, and that just makes him a way more versatile player.
Well, and also and this is again like there's so much. I actually, I was watching like I don't know how. Actually, I do know. But I was watching an Aaron Rose TikTok video about like the construction of the Raptors is just in complete disarray. How can you have 2 shooters missing from your team and suddenly you can't put 80 points on the board? It's a disaster. And it's like, okay, whatever. It's TikTok. Maybe you need to be a little bit exaggerative, but no, I think he's wrong. It's just like, first of all, you're missing your 2 best players, whatever. But part of the construct of this is that the expectation is Precious is going to evolve as a shooter. Boucher was a shooter and can be. And if either of those guys is shooting at a consistent rate, which Precious apparently has been in the last little while, then you can have lineups with a guy like Banton, who's just a defensive stopper, or like you said, you can move Precious to the 4 and bring somebody else in at the 5. And with that at the 5, you still have some playmaking. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility in your lineups.
Yeah. And go ahead.
I was just going to say in Aaron's defense, like they did just lose to like the 3 worst teams in the NBA. I get that, they're missing their 2 best players, but I don't think that it's like, it might be too early to be like his concerns are completely unjustified and he doesn't know. I'm not necessarily that you're saying this. It's just like I'm not sure if it's I have enough evidence to like dismiss those concerns yet. In fact, I think I kind of agree with him still.
No, I and we argued about this last time. I don't agree with him. And it's a valid point, and he's not alone, and neither are you. And
I was just gonna say he's not alone. Like Will had the exact same thing that like the Raptors need to change the way they do the roster this offseason. And I'm kind of with you, Adon, in that like if even one of these guys off the bench, if their 3-point shot improved, like we'd be having a different conversation.
Adon, can I ask you, do you agree with that comment? Precious has a nice looking shot for him? Because I'm no shot doctor, but his base seems a little weird. I think it's his like actual like the release looks nice, but I'm not sure his knees are kind of tilted inwards.
Can we throw the footage back up? I haven't really paid attention to it, but I mean,
you get that when you get bigger guys too. Like Karl Anthony Towns does that with the knees tilted inwards, just because it's like it takes more effort to get off the ground type thing.
Yeah,
I think the actual release looks really nice. Maybe his knees aren't
nice
tilted.
Pause, Chris. Yeah, I think it's good. It's good motion. Like I'm no shot doctor either, even though I'm a 6 shooter. But it doesn't look it doesn't look jerky. Like he bobs in and he's straight up and out. Like it looks pretty smooth and perhaps sustainable.
Yeah, his feet just weren't square in those, but I guess they don't have to be all the time. Who cares?
That's the thing I was gonna say.
60% from
I
3
don't.
tonight. So like,
It really doesn't matter like so often with like the form. It's just like, so many guys have such funky forms, but if you make the shot at a good clip and you're confident shooting it, that's all that matters. And like it shows with like the work, because if you watch Precious from the beginning of the season to now, he even hit a corner three, which was like, it was a quick release. That's what I was going to say. Like he hit a corner three in this game where as soon as the ball found him in the corner, he knew, like, he had no hesitation to like set his feet towards the rim, set his shoulders and shoot it. And it went in. Yeah, and okay, I was thinking we should show some of these clips now because they're kind of all about Birch versus Precious, but we could wait till the end if you guys want.
Another thing about Precious, which is like a very small evolution, is that he's only really shot the corner three, but tonight he had 2 above the breaks, and that's a big shift if that's like a real thing. It's like so that's another sign of improvement.
Yeah. Do you guys want to show the clips now or later?
Go for it.
We're going to try to get in. Let's just preface this by saying we're going to try to bring back the film segment. This is the official return of the film segment. And if we get kicked from YouTube, not only will you guys have to go immediately hop to Twitch, you can also be like rest assured that there'll never be film again on the show.
Yeah. No, but all the film that I asked for, we can just play it sequentially and I'll talk about it. But like all of it was just like, okay, no, this is just a bad defense for the Raptors. We can skip this. Can we restart it though? So watch Kem Birch here. Just blows this play. Like should be such an easy layup. I guess he didn't handle the ball right. Tries to get the foul. It doesn't work. The Spurs get out in transition. That's really bad. And then look at Precious here does an incredible job just like defending that at the rim, coming up with the rebound.
Can we pause on the last play? I just need to comment on how dense Keldon Johnson is. Like Precious bounced off of him. Was it? Yeah.
And obviously you can pick out any 2 clips in a game and like one be bad and one be good. You make your argument that way, but I found it pretty easy to like most of the time I watched Birch, he wasn't doing helpful things for the Raptors. And Precious got 3 early fouls, so that obviously is an issue. If you were to start, I think that could be a big issue. But in this game, like in the second half, he played extremely well. So I just continue to be baffled by the kind of minutes, not even the starter thing, but more so like the minutes thing, with Birch consistently getting like around the same amount of minutes as Precious. And I'd like to see that skewed a little bit more towards even like the Boucher, Precious, and Thad.
I'll admit we're not short on bad Kem Birch clips as of late. Like, it's pretty easy to find those. But a lot of the stuff that he does bring, like it's like he's the best boxer router on the team. Like he's better than Precious at boxing. He's a worse rebounder. Precious is more aggressive. He's like a football player, but Kem Birch is better at boxing out. And I hate being put in this position where I have to defend Kem Birch because I don't want to. But again, I'll say like he was 8th in minutes tonight, not including like the 3 or 4 guys who came on in the last 1 or 2 minutes. Like, he's the 8th man. So like, who cares? Like it's hard to really fault them on nights like tonight. And I think especially as Fred VanVleet gets incorporated again, as OG comes back, we're not going to see a lot of Kem Birch maybe ever again.
That's my question. Is does Birch continue to like get these minutes until the playoffs? For what it's worth, Birch was a +5, Precious was a +16. But yeah, we can move on.
was about to tweet that I think Utah, or I did tweet that I think Utah should be playing these Banton minutes, and then Banton had like a 4-minute like crazy run.
He had a great game.
He had a good second part of his
Yeah.
21 minutes. In the first part, like he looks very out of place. Like there's times where he doesn't look like he's NBA ready, and the fact that he can't shoot on top of that makes his minutes curious to me. I like having his athleticism defensively and throwing him at playmaking guards just to like wear people out. But I just can't understand why Utah's not playing and why Delano is playing so much. Do you guys have thoughts on that?
I did think it was interesting seeing him and DeJounte Murray up against one another, because that's like the best case scenario for Banton is like long non-shooting guard, still really effective, great defender, good rebounder, etc. But I'm kind of with you on nights where they're desperate for spacing, but they were shooting 36% from three tonight. The Raptors were like, shots were falling, so it's hard to. It wasn't a concern of mine tonight. I am with you in that, like, on nights where it's just nothing's falling, they need shooting, I'd rather see Utah over Svi. I might say go as far as say I'd rather see Utah over like Chris Boucher in stretches, but just because he gives you a little bit like more intelligent playmaking and sort of like maybe a little bit more solidity. But I don't think, I still like seeing Banton in stretches, and I think there's still a place for him, especially tonight. Like I thought he looked great, honestly.
Third quarter, he was in 2 minutes. He was -4. That I think that's really what kind of stuck out to me. And then he played the final 10 minutes, or sorry, in the second quarter. And then he played 10 minutes that overlapped the third and the fourth, and he was +9. So
yeah, I think you're definitely right to say that there's times when he doesn't look like an NBA player, and I've kind of been pushing the 905 bandwagon for him because I just don't see a scenario where they get in the playoffs and he's in the rotation. Like defensively, he does good things, but offensively in a playoff setting, he would kill them. Like the way people would just sag off of him. And then Utah, like it's also confusing how he's so far in the doghouse because I don't know. It's confusing because he's actually a good 3-point shooter, and he just hasn't been given that opportunity to.
And he's played well every time he does get minutes. Like he doesn't even look like he's fucking up, you know?
Yeah, and I think like the thing is like it's hard. It's annoying to be on here and like criticize the minutes distribution as much as we are right now, but like it often feels when watching this team that like a few guys are like carrying other guys on their back, you know? And like that's the impression I get from this team way too often, where it's just like there should be by now like some semblance of like and there's been so many injuries that it's hard to actually have this happen, but like in ideal world there would be like some semblance of like a rotation that makes sense where it doesn't feel like two guys are carrying the Raptors and like everyone kind of works together. Instead it really does feel so often like Kem Birch and like Delano Banton and like, you know, Svi are like out there doing cardio and then the other guys are putting them on their back, and that's frustrating as a fan to watch. And I think that's why we're criticizing like the minutes so much, and also because like there's only like 20 games left here. They have to find like an 8-man rotation soon.
Totally. And yeah, I mean on the flip side, Freddie only played 34 minutes, and
that's what I was going to say.
That big
minutes
run
are down tonight. Way
yeah,
down.
and that big run that the Raptors had was without Freddie. So that was like something that you rarely see. Usually,
and I like that lineup too because it was so big. I think it was Banton, Thad,
Precious, Pascal, and Scotty.
Exactly. That lineup was so big that the Spurs were just overwhelmed and couldn't score.
Yeah, and it does help that the Spurs went cold from three. I don't like. It's kind of always those like chicken and egg things. Like, is this our good defense, or is this just that they went cold? It's a little bit of both. But yeah, it is encouraging because usually when we fall behind, it's like, okay, play Freddie for 47 minutes and like like you said, let's have him throw everybody on his back and drag us out of this. And that wasn't the case tonight. So that was kind of refreshing and different.
Yeah, Michael Granger wrote a good story on Sportsnet about how basically the Raptors' best stretches of the season have come when they've shot the three ball well, and their worst stretches have come when they haven't. And like that's why this team is not like a contender right now to me, is because like they're too reliant on that three ball like going down, and in games when it doesn't go down, they don't have like enough answers, and in games when it does go down, then they're good. And I think a lot of that has to do with like the defense. Like I thought the Spurs had a lot of really good looks today up until when they really turned it on late in the third quarter. In general, the Spurs were missing good 3-point looks all night, and like a better team I think would have beat the Raptors tonight. They didn't play like out of their minds.
I agree. And it's either 3-point shooting or it's transition. We were saying earlier to Kyle, or I was like, you could see it. Like as soon as the Spurs missed a couple and the Raptors got a little momentum off of defensive rebounds, their offense flowed. And that's just because in a half-court set sludge fest, it's just like we have a pretty impotent offense unless Pascal and Freddie are going nuts.
I will say I'm most confident in the rotation, like the bench guys at least, than I've ever been this season. I mean, like I thought Flynn kind of carved himself a spot. I'm happy with the way Precious is playing. I'm happy with I think Boucher's playing some of his best basketball. Banton looked good tonight. Watanabe, we're always going to talk about. They have 3 or 4 options off the bench that are like at least look like NBA players, which is more than what we could have really reasonably said like 2 months ago. So
do we have my thought was Chris didn't play just because the lineups were hot. That was kind of my read on the situation. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I didn't see him get hurt. So I would just assume he's fine.
Yeah, I think Thad and Precious both had it going, and there's not really room when those two guys are playing well for Chris to like get minutes.
So is that worth like in the consideration in the calculus of the Thad Young trade? Is it worth like, oh, we're not using our talent optimally. Some of our best bench players are sort of like cannot overlap with one another. If Thad Young's doing well and Precious is doing well, Chris Boucher can't play. Isn't that a little concerning?
Well, yes and no, but I mean, we answered this earlier. It's just like sit Birch. It's just once you have Birch's once you limit Birch's minutes, you have no overlap now. You start Thad, which is what Lou and I were talking about this. You start Thad, and then you have Precious and Boucher coming off with that give you that kind of energy boost with Flynn.
Yeah, I don't think it's concerning because like that's what Thad is at this point in his career, is like a depth piece. He's not like a guaranteed 20 minutes a night guy. He's a guy who like you play if Chris Boucher doesn't have it going, but if like Chris and Precious come in the game and are both playing incredible, that's okay. Thad doesn't need to play more than 10 minutes every night. And like I'm plugging this because I have a piece coming out tomorrow about Thad. Is that like this trade to me was so much more about like the leadership than anything. And like you can quibble with moving down 15 spots in the draft to get a leader and an adult in the room. But that like nobody's expecting Thad to come in here and save the day. There's definitely some redundancy there, but I actually don't mind at all when like one guy isn't playing too well. Thad can come in there and get some big minutes. And if all the young guys are playing well, then Thad can just sit on the bench. If he's okay with that role, I'm okay with it.
My only comment would be I'm happy that the Thad truthers have finally switched from like 10 spots in the draft to 15. That's all I wanted to hear. I'm good with that. As long as the narrative is dropping 15 spots and not 10, I think it's a win for me.
It was looking grim there for a second. Detroit's like 5-2, and we dropped 3 straight. It's like, oh god.
But Detroit actually looks really good. Like Cade, I think this is sort of a tangent. I think Cade, if not Scotty, should be rookie of the year. I know Evan Mobley's had a great year, but I think like Cade is in a backcourt with like Corey Joseph. He has more impact on his team than Evan Mobley does. I don't know. I'm a Cade fan.
I can't get there with Cade because they're so bad as a team that like I value winning with all of these awards probably a little too much because I know you can't. You're right. But I'm saying my personal bias, like you can't expect Cade to carry these guys to wins, but I do value winning so much. But I'm curious, why do you think because I've been considering writing about like a Scotty Barnes deserves Rookie of the Year piece, but why do you think he deserves it above Mobley?
You know what? This might be blasphemous. I'm not sure he does. I think to me,
that's where I'm at too. That's why I haven't written the piece. I'm just like, I can't like really hard argue that because I really think Mobley's right there.
No, there is. I mean, I would probably go with Mobley today, but there is a clear case. Scotty creates his own shot. Like Scotty is his own offensive engine. He does get a lot like offensive putbacks, but like, I mean, you'd have to dig into this, but a huge percentage of his points are possibly unassisted. And
I'll look it up right now. But you saw the Cleveland game too, and Mobley, he can do that himself.
He can, but for the majority of the year, I would wager, or I would guess that he doesn't as much. And so I think that would be your best case, is that like between Scotty's playmaking and scoring, like if you're gonna do away with wins, you're gonna look at like, as a player, how are you succeeding? But the thing is, Mobley's defense is so much more superior than Scotty.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I just think he has more of an impact on his team than Scotty has on this team, which is, I think, to me, that's.
I don't know about that either.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I mean, it'd be hard to measure that, but
I have the stats though. So Scotty's assisted on 49% of his made baskets.
That's not looking good for
Mobley is assisted on 65 of his made baskets. So Scotty with 15 percentage points more unassisted.
Yeah.
For Scotty.
And then on defense, you have Jared Allen in the middle. And I mean, we do have like, Pascal and Freddie and stuff, but like, there's something to be said there. But I do think it is ultimately Mobley.
See, I kind of do too. And like, I want to make the Scotty case. I really do. But I think when you look at the standings, they're pretty like Cleveland's like 3 games up. So, okay, that's kind of significant if you're a playoff team versus a play-in team. And then when I like Scotty defensively is really up and down. He just is
really up and down.
Yeah, he's really up and down, and that I think is a big reason why the defense hasn't been able to be the top 10 defense that we all kind of thought it would this year, is because he's playing like 35 minutes a night, and you need all 5 guys to kind of be on a string. And Scotty kind of comes and goes, and that's fine. I'm very confident that he'll come like by his second year. I think he'll be a really good defender, but Mobley's like already a really good defender. And then offensively, he's behind Scotty, I would say offensively, but not by enough to where the defense doesn't matter.
I just don't get why Scotty's so often on the primary ball handler.
Well, they switch everything. So
just saw this. Yeah, but he often starts. He seems to be on them a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's just like get the rookie reps guarding everyone. Like it's a long-term play.
Yeah,
or a lot of what they're doing is a long-term play.
It's that. I think it's also like Siakam needs a fucking rest sometimes, and OG needs a rest sometimes. It's just like sometimes it's like he's a live body. Throw him at him, give him like 5 possessions where Siakam can take some possessions off on defense.
I just think ultimately, like Scotty's going to be a good defender, but I think Scotty, the same way offensively, he like is a cerebral player. I think his best defense is off ball. Like I think he's right now, if we want to leverage his utility defensively, it's putting him as a team defender.
Yeah.
Or putting in a spot to be a team defender more than it is to be the point of attack, because I just don't think he's quick enough laterally.
Right now, I agree with you, but long term, I like what the Raptors are doing. Definitely, because like you always have to go back to the fact that this is a developmental year. And what I wrote at the draft when the Raptors got Scotty is like what makes him such an intriguing guy defensively is that you'll see these moments where he picks up a guy, like he puts pressure on the guy and completely takes away passing lanes and just completely disrupts the action. So I think what makes him special is that he has both in him. He has that on-ball pressure and he has that like help side, rim protection, steals, deflections kind of stuff. Like how long until that'll all come together? Who knows? It's definitely not right now. And I think you're right. He's better off ball right now. But even off ball, he loses his guy all the time.
But
the problem is, The problem is, to me, they have so many other defenders who are great off-ball guys. But I'm with you, Aiden. I think if you look at those Kawhi, Siakam, like those 2019 lineups, where you just like put Siakam at the nail and just be like, go cause havoc, get in every like passing lane. You're gonna switch and guard the ball handler up top, and you're gonna like play like he was just a menace at the nail. And I think Scotty has the potential to do that. I think he's like that's kind of what he was doing in college anyway, and he's going to be crazy like in that way. But Siakam is like a better free safety than him.
You also want him Westbrook rebounding. Like you want him to be on that weak side to grab the ball and go. And I think that's another part of it too.
Speaking of back cuts, before we go to Taxman, Siakam is getting cooked on some back cuts as of late. It's not a really concern, but there's like 3 or 4 back cuts a game where he's just like standing there and like looks behind him like, oh shit, oh my god, he beat me by 10 feet.
Yeah, but he's just behind rest, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Taxman of the night, our favorite part of the night.
We should go back to Scotty. I feel bad. We just kind of hated on him after he had like the best game of his season. Yeah, we weren't hating. Like it's just that we're trying to be objective viewers here. I think that was a good conversation.
We rave about Scotty all the time. He is incredible. Like what he does, like how he does it. Like it's also awkward and herky jerky, but it's like every time he puts up a shot within 3 or 4 feet, I feel like it's going in. And I'm angry just because I want him to be doing more of it. It's like, who's to say you can't be doing this? Like, what was he? He was 8 for 12. Why can't he be like, 12 for 16? Like I don't. That's what angers me is that he just doesn't do it enough. But
you got precious KD Achua on the floor.
So yeah, no, I was gonna say that it feels like sometimes Scotty's rolling and he'll inbound the ball. And they'll get the ball up, kind of intending to get him in the set, and then like as they get the ball into the wing before Scotty gets down to the post, like Gary will just find himself in 3 feet of space and be like, "I'm shooting this," or Precious will like, get the ball in 4 feet of space and be like, "I gotta attack this. I don't know what to say. It's just in my DNA. I got to do this." Like they just have a bunch of guys in the team that just want to attack. So I don't know.
Yeah, we talked about this last show. Like that is definitely in Gary's DNA to be a scorer. And I think Scotty's DNA is to be a facilitator. And it has to be a mindset change that'll come over time to be more aggressive.
A facilitator with 1 assist tonight. That's another thing. It's just like, again, it's just like, this is where I go back to Nurse and this offensive schematic. Like, I just don't get why we're not running more stuff through Scotty. But I say it every time. So.
Well, like I think the Windhorse quote at the beginning of the year still rings true, which is like they have a guy here and they should be doing everything they can to facilitate his development. Doesn't really seem like it right now. That's okay because they're a playoff team, so it might be a little bit different type of situation. But it's possible we look back at this like next year and go like, "Ooh, I wish Scotty got more touches last year." Like, I wish he had more reps. I wish he was more ready for this year.
Yeah, we're doing it for Dylan Banton.
And exactly. Instead of being like, thank God we made the play-in and like lost in 2 games or something. Like, I don't know. Who knows? Matthew.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you for the
Taxman. He's just trying to get under the under his bracket.
That's a write-off for Matthew. That's a charitable donation right there.
Yeah. Shout out to Matthew. I do want to disagree with you guys though before we move on because
I thought you were going to say you have to disagree with Matthew. Like we're not doing an awesome job.
No, we appreciate everything that Matthew said.
Cheers, Matthew. Donated.
No, like I don't agree that they're doing anything wrong in regards to Scotty's development because how many times have we seen a rookie come into a program, get the keys handed to him. Think about Zion, for example, and just kind of lose his head. Or, like the Raptors have developed this culture over like many years to where like there's a hierarchy. And right now, Fred and Siakam are at the top of it. And they're at the top of it because they work their way from literally the bottom to the top of it. I think you can't just because this guy's a 4th overall pick and like really good right now, you can't just send him to the top of that offensive hierarchy because it screws up the way the locker room functions. it screws up everything that they've like been building. So I'm okay with them slow playing his usage. I think they're doing the right thing, and just like next year it's going to go up a little bit, and then the year after that it's going to go up a little bit. And it's not like Scotty has like no role. Like, he's involved. It's just that they're not playing calls for him, or they're not calling plays for him. And he's not really a type of guy who like goes and gets his own. And it's kind of also on him. And I've been saying this for a long time. It's also on him to be more of that guy.
To be fair though, like you brought up the Zion thing, I can name like, you know, LeBron had the keys to the bus right away. So did Kevin Durant.
LeBron is LeBron.
At a certain point, it's like if they're going to be successful,
can't say LeBron.
But this isn't.
No, but I'm just saying, like, if they're going to be successful, they're going to be successful, kind of regardless of situation. It just accelerates the development.
LeBron also blew up every team he's been on to just trade all the guys for vets. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess we don't want LeBron.
That Wiggins love trade looks pretty good looking backwards.
Oh, for sure. But you know what I mean? Like,
no, of course. But it's not binary though. It's not LeBron or don't call plays for him. I'm just saying, like, there are so many points in these games where our offense is so stale. Like, it's awful to watch. And it's just like just stick him in the post. Like, it doesn't take much, you know, like, or get him in the high post. Or we stopped doing dribble handoffs entirely. I don't think we see any from him anymore. And early in the season we were doing that, and it was getting him downhill. And you see what happens when he's in transition and semi-transition. No one can stop his momentum. And there are ways to do that, or at least to get him closer into the paint to do what he does well, including cross-court passes to open shooters. And we just don't do it. And I'm not saying like move him up the hierarchy of creators on this team, but I do think there's opportunity to give him more reps. That's all.
Yeah, you're right. I love that pitch play that they used to run for him.
Yeah, they stopped altogether.
Can I propose a comparison? Charles Barkley's rookie season comes into a good team, a team that has won with Julius Erving and Moses Malone. He's instantly their third leading touch getter, third or fourth, right? And his touches go up towards the end of the year. This should be more of a Barkley situation. They should, like, Barkley came, and it was different because guys came in more pro ready because they spent more time in college, but Barkley came into a team with established veterans and still got his shots up, still was very effective, still was a big part of the offense. Like, it's not impossible. That is like the perfect medium between LeBron and, you know, like some guy who just goes and stands in the corner on offense or in the dunker spot.
Yeah.
That was a good argument too. We're pretty hot on these like debates. Oren, do you want to give us a Can-Am Taxman of the Night?
Yeah, let's give it to Scotty because we've been talking about him for a reason. He had a really great game, and you know, for all the, you know, we're picking his game apart really tightly because he has so much potential and he's so good already. But he has been really good since the All-Star break, and if you think about like a rookie wall, he just hasn't hit that. Instead, I was trying to think like about a clever thing to tweet, but I just couldn't think of like something that sounds like a wall but is the opposite, like an accelerator.
A step ladder.
Yeah, but something that rhymes with wall. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So you went with accelerator.
I went with not tweeting.
Okay. Adrian Collider.
Yeah, but really, like he's really stepped it up with OG out. Even though it's been mostly losses, he's been playing really good, especially offensively. 8 of 12 tonight, just like dominant when he went into the post. And I think he definitely deserves Taxman. I think he was honestly maybe their best player. Fred was definitely nice to have back, but Scotty was right there.
I wanted to, before we go to Taxman, I wanted to talk about that play where Scotty rips and goes and does the like windmill layup.
I wrote that down.
That's a play we've never seen Scotty do. I've never seen him out of a triple threat rip and go. Like, he actually looked like an entirely different player. He looked like T-Mac or something, as you know, the way he drove, as opposed to like he's a lot more methodical and slow at times the way he scores. So that was an interesting, you know, he blew by Vassell, who's like a very good defender. You know, it's not not like he blew by Pirtle or something. So that is something to keep an eye on.
He can do it all, and this is with his left. He's dribbling with his left here.
Yeah.
And I did not. I thought he was gonna dunk it at first.
Yeah.
And then it was smart to go for the reverse.
Okay, back to Taxman. Chris, you're just on it. You're killing the tickers here. Oren, you want to talk about our friend VJ?
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Visit taxman.com or visit VJ at the top of our screen. You could call him because it's tax season right now. I know I'm doing mine. I'm gathering mine. So get your 2021 taxes done. Do it at canamtax.com because they'll get you the money back that you deserve. All right.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
We want to do a couple questions and then get out of here. It's pretty late.
Yeah.
Or do you want to just get out of here?
Are there any questions? Let's see.
Phoenix had a question here. Would you be open to? Oh, what? Go ahead.
No. We can go to Phoenix. Phoenix is like a more familiar face than Steve Lamb, but we'll get to Steve Lamb. Steve, you got to be in here every night like Phoenix, so to get top.
Yeah, Phoenix is our boy. All right, we're a person. Go. Okay, I'll read it. Phoenix asks, would you be open to more Pascal drop coverage when everyone is fully healthy with him at the 5? So does that mean Scotty's, like, I guess positioning doesn't really matter, but I'm assuming Scotty's on the floor. Scotty's and Pascal's guarding the 5.
Yes, I think that run they had, what it was like 8 or 9, 10 game win streak, whatever it ended up being. They just that lineup was so good. It was like, don't overthink shit. Put your 5 best players on the floor and let them cook. It's like easy. It's basketball. Like, just get the best guys out there. We'll figure something out. So, in terms of the drop coverage, I don't know if I want Siakam as a primary defender, on a big. I kind of want Scotty. I think Scotty's better at guarding bigs than Siakam is, especially when you have Siakam as like a free safety. So,
yeah, I think OG is the best at guarding bigs, far and away. And the answer to this would be no for me. Like, the whole identity of this team is based around not playing drop coverage, and that's partly because they don't have a 7-footer who can play that effectively. Like, Pascal playing drop coverage would not be a very effective way to use Pascal and Scotty and OG. Like, considering they play so big, the reason they do that is that they can amalgamate a center together. If you're playing Pascal and drop, you're just asking him to be a center straight up. So I would say no, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, I would agree.
I want a 7-footer on this team when they need to play drop. That would be a nice addition. But right now, like, Siakam isn't the guy to do that.
I kind of,
if anything, Precious is the guy to do that.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah. But I didn't want to be the guy who's like, we have to put Gary on the bench. But like, it's kind of like, I do foresee a lineup where Precious is that 5 spot, Scotty, OG, Freddie, and Pascal.
Yeah, I do think there is something to be said about having like one of those quicker sort of like hybrid 4 or 5 guys in drop coverage, because they can close pretty quickly. Like, they can, it doesn't necessarily, they're not great like rim protectors, but if it's like, they can get to the ball quickly on guys like Bam, where they're going to be like playing like pick and pop or like, a pick and roll into like a dribble handoff, that kind of thing. Like, it's not the end of the world to be not switching everything.
So I think this doesn't really make sense to me, only because the drop would be on the switch. So Pascal's dropping on whoever's receiving the screen from Bam. They might have some scouting. Like, I mean, Bam is pretty lethal on the roll for like lobs and stuff. So there might have been some scouting on like dropping lower with Bam on the rolls. But it all depends on who's the ball handler in these situations.
I think like what he means is like after the screen, once they get into like a 2-on-1, and it's like,
but that's just
Pascal's actually really good at that. He's good at playing the cat and mouse game.
Yeah, that's just playing 2 though. That's not necessarily drop coverage. That's like kind of standard playing 2.
Right. But I do think Pascal can be good in those situations. But if you ask him to do it like throughout the course of a game, then probably get schemed out pretty quick.
We should go to Steve Lamb because I did promise him.
Stevie Blam.
Why? What's going on? My answer would be like the NBA at the NBA level, people are way better at like abusing
Everything.
non-shooters on defense. Like they'll just straight up leave you in the NBA, and they'll like the help defense is so much better, and the way that teams can collapse the floor and pre-rotate, especially when there's a non-shooter on the floor in the NBA, is like so much better than the G League. So he's just not effective on offense. That would be my answer. And then the general, like, guys are bigger and stronger, and Delano's kind of skinny.
This is the thing that I think a lot of fans just don't really understand or appreciate. When we say like someone sucks or something, it's like we actually don't appreciate the gap in skill level and athleticism. And it's just like it's immense. It's just insane the difference in skill set and athleticism. And so like it basically comes down to the fact that at the G League, Delano is faster and longer than everybody. It can kind of get where he wants to. And in the NBA, it's the creme de la creme. And you can't, on top of that, what Kyle's saying is you can scheme against those kinds of players a lot more easily. And then when you don't have your, like Westbrook, when you don't have your athleticism as the only thing, or when it's not working, what else can you provide? And Delano's struggling with that part of his game.
Yeah, lastly, to add to what you guys said, like Delano's dribble is not where it needs to be to run point in the NBA. And in the NBA, the defenders are just so good at getting into the dribble. So it really limits what he can do in the half court. Like you see Flynn get into a screen, easily get into tight spaces in the paint, and then pass it out.
Yeah.
Delano never really gets into those tight spaces because he's just not comfortable dribbling there. So I think
can pull up.
Yeah, I think that's a big difference between the G and the NBA.
Yeah. And Svi went and had 40, although it's just shooting threes, but still. Okay, let's maybe go to Malik.
Malika Andrews is on the show?
No.
She's a big fan of ours.
I'm a big fan of hers, if she's watching.
Would you rather Scotty get 12 to 18 shots and limit Gary to around 8 to 15? I like Gary, but I've been pro getting Scotty more touches and run more sets for him to get him to attack his mismatch. All I want is more shots that make sense in the flow of our offense. Like for 6 weeks, we watched Gary like shoot like a flamethrower, but every shot was like, ugh. You know, it's like it's just him kind of doing his thing. And we've argued about this before, like how, I mean, if it's consistent, you can't really argue against it. It's a great weapon to have. But I do think that Scotty's shots are probably a lot more like within the flow of the offense and more conducive to what Toronto wants to run as opposed to Scotty's shots. So I don't know if it's about volume, but more about like how they're getting those shots.
Yeah, it's also they're such different players, right? Like Gary is required to space the floor and Scotty's not. So it's not really one or the other to me. So I don't know how to answer this question.
Is Gary hitting all of his threes? Then yes.
Right.
Okay, let's do the final question. We're going to do thanks to everybody else who asked questions that we didn't answer. Keep them for next time. We're going to, because it's late and I haven't had dinner over here on the West Coast. So we're going to finish with the schedule question.
I just want to say on Phoenix's question, like none of us can answer this question, I don't think, confidently, but like we'll see is the answer, but like it'll be huge. The Raptors defense will be very dependent on whether or not he can kind of fix the blow-bys or not.
It is impressive that he already is like kind of in the mix for it, and he's only going to get smarter and quicker as he gets older. So, I mean, I would be betting on it if there were numbers on that. Okay, final question. How do you think we hold up on this tough trip?
Well, I'll say this. The Lakers just lost to the Houston Rockets.
Did they?
They did. So that's what I was saying last episode. It's not like the Lakers are world beaters.
I just can't believe I can't believe they're squandering LeBron's. I can't believe LeBron squandered LeBron's season.
I know.
LeBron
everybody in the world knew Westbrook was a bad trade.
I'm gonna say like, you know what? No, yeah, 2-2. I say 2-2 on the roadie.
Well, Phoenix won't have Chris Paul still.
Yeah, I know, but
I think
still,
Booker's back.
Tough game. Tough back to back.
Yeah, Jokic is a mean man. Mean man. I think we're gonna go. I'm gonna say we're gonna go 3-1. I don't know how or why, but I'm gonna throw it out there.
Nice. No, they could beat Phoenix.
Yeah, and then the
I have
Clippers.
to go 1-3. Phoenix
Oh.
is they can't beat Phoenix. Phoenix just they just clinched a playoff spot tonight. It's March 9th. They just clinched a playoff spot. They're the best team in the NBA by far. They're the championship favorite, and they're winning still without Chris Paul. So,
dude, the fans don't want to hear cynicism, Kyle.
They're going. What is that? Okay, 10-0. My fault.
To be clear, I'm going 2-2 with wins over the LA teams.
Yeah,
I would go 1-3.
I foresaw the Denver loss last time. I just don't think Jokic is the worst player for us to possibly guard.
Oh my god, he looked like a man among boys.
Yeah,
like
even more so than Embiid, just because of the way he passes. But
yeah, and especially no OG against Jokic. I actually don't even know what to expect. He's our best Jokic defender.
It's going to be a long night for Kem Birch.
It's
going to be a long Kem Birch night.
Someone put like a Rey Mysterio Jr. mask on him made out of plexiglass. Like just a globe. All right, that's it for us. Oh, Caddy's sleeping. My dog just left. Thanks for joining us, Oren and Kyle. Audience, thanks for viewing. 120 of you still at 12 o'clock at night. Go to bed. Jesus Christ, all of you. Like, comment, subscribe to us, and we'll see you on Friday.